Dear learners, welcome back to WSE English Learning Tips through Storytelling, where every step of your English journey is filled with inspiration. Let me ask you something. Have you ever listened to a native speaker and thought, wait, did they even use real words? You slow it down. You replay it. You squint at the subtitles like you're solving a crime. But no matter how many times you try, you still can't catch what they're saying at full speed. I used to feel the same way. And not just sometimes. Every single day. Let me introduce myself. My name's Sophia, and I'd been learning English for over 10 years. I could read novels. I could pass grammar tests. I even got a decent TOEIC score. But the moment I watched an English movie without subtitles, it was like I'd never studied English at all. I remember one day, I tried watching Friends. Everyone told me it was a great way to learn real English. But by the end of the episode, I had only understood 2 full sentences. 2 sentences. I felt like a complete failure. The next day, I tried watching an interview with Emma Watson. She spoke so fast, so smoothly, so naturally, that I froze. I didn't want to admit it, but I was on the verge of tears. I kept thinking, what's wrong with me? I should understand this by now. And worst of all, I started to avoid listening practice. I convinced myself it wasn't that important. I'll just focus on reading and writing, I told myself. But deep down, I knew the truth. I couldn't communicate if I couldn't understand. Everything changed after one moment, an experience I'll never forget. It was a job interview. Not in English. No, this was just a small company in my city. But the interviewer asked, "You've written here that your English is good. Could you speak with international clients if needed?" I smiled nervously and said, "Yes." Then he handed me a pair of headphones and said, "Can you listen to this short message from a client and summarize it for me?" I pressed play. And froze. I heard noise. Maybe a few scattered words. But I couldn't understand the full meaning. Not even close. I panicked. I tried to guess. I made up something vague. He looked at me and gave a polite smile. But I knew. I wasn't getting that job. I went home, and I cried. Not just because I failed. But because deep down, I knew I wasn't doing the right things. I had avoided the hard part, the real part, for too long. So, I made a decision that night. I would spend 15 minutes every single day improving my listening. Not watching TV passively. Not just listening to songs. I would do active listening, and I would do it the right way. Even if it took a year. Even if it was uncomfortable. I was done pretending. And here's what happened next. Within just 2 weeks, something changed. Not everything. But enough to make me believe again. And in the next few minutes, I want to share exactly what I did, step by step. Because if you've ever felt the way I did, like you'll never keep up with fast English, I promise, there is a way forward. And you don't need 5 hours a day. Just 15 minutes. But those 15 minutes must be used wisely. Let me show you how. So where did I begin? Honestly, the first step wasn't technical. It wasn't about apps or strategies. It was about getting honest with myself. I looked at my old routine. I would play an English podcast while cooking, or put on a Netflix show in the background while scrolling my phone. I told myself I was practicing, but in reality, I wasn't really listening. I was hearing, not understanding. That night after the interview, I opened a notebook and wrote at the top, Listening Practice, Day 1. Then I wrote a question underneath. What are you afraid to face? My answer came quickly. I'm afraid I'll never understand fast English, and that means I'll never belong. That hit me hard. But I kept writing. So what can I do for 15 minutes today that will move me closer? Here's what I decided. I would do something I'd heard about, but never actually tried properly. Shadowing. Now, maybe you've heard of it. Maybe you've even tried it once or twice and thought, this is too hard. Same here. But this time, I promise myself, I'll keep it small, focused, and daily. So here's exactly how I started, and how you can try it too. Step 1. Choose a very short clip, 30 seconds only. I chose a TED video because the speaker was clear but natural. I picked a 30-second section and listened without subtitles first. I understood maybe 40%. No more. Step 2. Break it down, phrase by phrase. I replayed the first phrase, maybe 5 seconds. I tried to repeat it aloud exactly as I heard it. Not just the words, but the rhythm, the pauses, the intonation. It felt awkward. I sounded robotic. I stumbled. But I didn't stop. Step 3. Use the transcript, but only after trying on your own. Once I tried shadowing a sentence a few times, I checked the transcript. I was always surprised. Words like gonna and wanna didn't sound like what I expected. Sometimes I missed tiny linking sounds, like get outta here sounding like gaduda here. And that's when it clicked. My ears weren't broken, they were just untrained. No one had ever taught me how real English sounds in real life. Step 4. Do one full shadow. After practicing each line, I'd go back and shadow the entire 30-second clip from beginning to end. I'd play and speak at the same time, like an echo. I didn't try to be perfect. I tried to flow. And here's something strange, I started to feel the English, not just understand it. Step 5. Reflect in your notebook. At the end of every 15-minute session, I'd write one sentence. Today I learned that ______. Sometimes it was, today I learned that should've sounds like shoulda. Other times, today I learned I can stick with it, even when it's hard. That one habit kept me going. After a week of this, I noticed something. I was catching words I used to miss, even in podcasts. Not everything. But some things. It gave me a quiet kind of hope. And that brings me to something important. I know shadowing isn't easy. And if you're thinking, but Sophia, what if I don't have perfect pronunciation? I hear you. You don't need to sound like a native. You just need to hear what's really being said, and respond confidently. But do you know the biggest reason most learners give up on listening? They try to do too much, too soon. They think they need to understand full movies right away. But real growth happens in the small, focused reps, not in marathon sessions. So now I want to ask you, what's your current listening routine? Are you truly listening, or just letting English play in the background? Share your routine in the comments. I'd love to hear what's working for you, or where you're stuck. In the next part, I'll show you the 3 surprising tricks that made my 15-minute practice twice as effective, especially for understanding fast, natural conversations. Let's get practical. After I built a basic shadowing routine, I felt proud, but also frustrated. My rhythm was better, but fast English still felt like a blur in real conversations. That's when I discovered 3 surprising tricks that made my 15-minute sessions twice as effective. They didn't come from textbooks. They came from trial and error, and a lot of failed attempts. So here they are. Real. Specific. Honest. Tip 1. Copy the pauses, not just the words. This one sounds simple, but it changed everything. At first, I was obsessed with pronunciation. I thought if I said every word clearly, I was doing great. But I was wrong. I recorded myself shadowing a clip from The Ellen Show. When I listened back, I sounded weird. Not natural. It wasn't the words, it was the timing. So the next day, I did something different. I focused on where the speaker paused, and how long those pauses lasted. I realized that native speakers pause in places I never expected, before a joke, after a phrase, sometimes even mid-sentence. Those pauses carry meaning. When I copied them, something strange happened. I started to understand why people spoke the way they did. And guess what? That helped me predict what came next, before they said it. That's huge in fast English. Because once you can predict structure, you stop translating word by word. You flow. Tip 2. Use micro-dictation, but only one sentence at a time. This is a game I made up. You'll need a podcast or video, and a pen. Here's how it works. You listen to one sentence, just one. You pause. You try to write it down, exactly as you heard it. Then you check the transcript. In the beginning, I got 60% wrong. Seriously. Here's a real example from my notebook. Audio, she would have told you if she knew. My guess, she would have told you if she knew. Actual, she would have told you if she knew. That's when I noticed the hidden danger of listening practice. You hear what your brain expects, not what's really said. But when I did this daily, my accuracy improved. After a few weeks, I was hearing contractions, connected speech, and even tone changes much more clearly. Microdictation forces you to slow down and listen with surgical precision. And it only takes 3 to 5 minutes. Tip 3. Recycle your content. Don't jump to something new every day. This one felt boring at first, but it turned out to be a superpower. I used to believe I needed new input every day to improve. New video, new podcast, new accent. But then I read something that stuck with me. Don't just listen widely. Listen deeply. So I chose one 2-minute video and stuck with it for 5 days straight. Day 1, just listened and tried shadowing. Day 2, did microdictation. Day 3, focused on rhythm and emotion. Day 4, practiced speaking part by part, like an actor. Day 5, closed my eyes and visualized the message. By the end of the week, I didn't just understand the clip, I owned it. And when I watched another video from the same speaker, it felt easier. Familiar. Suddenly, I wasn't starting from zero every time. I had a foundation. If you've ever felt like you're stuck on a listening treadmill, going nowhere, this is the trick to break that cycle. So now I'll be totally honest with you. These tips helped me, yes, but there were still days I wanted to give up. Days I thought, I'm too old to get fluent, or what's the point if I'll never sound native? But then something happened. One moment, completely unexpected, that made everything click. A turning point I'll never forget. And I'll share it with you next. But first, let me ask. Do you think English learners today are too focused on new content and not enough on deep practice? What do you think matters more, variety or repetition? Let me know in the comments. I'm really curious what your experience has been. I want to take you back to a day that changed everything for me. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon. I was waiting at a tiny cafe near my apartment. Nothing special, just a break from work, a warm drink, and some quiet. I had my earbuds in. I was listening to an episode of the All Ears English podcast, one of their intermediate interviews. I had already shadowed this episode 3 times that week. I knew the voices. I knew the rhythm. It was familiar. But this time, I wasn't actively studying. I was just listening. Casually. No subtitles. No notebook. Then something strange happened. About 3 minutes into the conversation, I realized. I had understood everything so far. Every word. Every pause. Every joke. Even the little and phrases that used to throw me off. I paused the audio. And just sat there. I wasn't excited right away. I was shocked. Like, wait. Did that just happen? I replayed the last minute, just to check. Yes. I had really understood it. It wasn't that the speakers were slow. It wasn't that I'd memorized the script. It was that for the first time in my life, my brain had caught up with natural English, in real time. No translation. No guessing. No stress. It felt like seeing color after living in black and white. And I remember this moment so clearly, because it wasn't dramatic. It wasn't like in the movies where a character stands up and cheers. No. I just sat there quietly, and cried. Not big, loud tears. Just quiet ones. Because for years, I believed I would never get there. I had spent so long thinking something was wrong with me, that my ears weren't made for English, or that I had started too late. But none of that was true. I just hadn't learned the right way. I hadn't given myself permission to grow slowly, but deeply. That moment in the cafe became a kind of mental anchor for me. Whenever I doubted myself, I would go back to it. I'd think, you heard it once. You can hear it again. Just keep going. Now don't get me wrong, it didn't mean I suddenly understood everything in English. Not at all. I still struggled with certain accents. Some slang still threw me off. But now, I had proof that real understanding was possible, for me. And if it was possible once, it could be repeated. That's when my confidence changed. I started speaking more. Watching more interviews without subtitles. Talking to myself in English while cooking. Even ordering coffee in English when I traveled. And I started seeing English not as something outside of me, but as something I was becoming part of. Let me ask you something honestly. Do you remember the moment when something finally clicked in your English journey, even just once? Maybe you read a news article and understood the whole thing. Maybe you finally asked for directions abroad, and they understood you. Or maybe, you're still waiting for that moment. If you are, don't worry. Mine came after months of practice, and after 10 years of confusion. But it came. And it was worth it. In the final part of this story, I'll summarize the biggest lessons from my journey, share a few things I wish I'd known earlier, and give you a simple action plan you can start today, in just 15 minutes. But before we get there, take a moment and reflect. What would it mean to you to truly understand fast, natural English? Not perfectly. Not all the time. Just naturally. Confidently. Enough? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to know what moment you're working toward, and how I can help you get there. If you've made it this far, thank you. Not just for listening to my story, but for caring enough about your English to stick with it. That already says so much about you. Now, let me wrap this up by sharing the 3 biggest lessons I've learned, and how you can take real action today, starting with just 15 minutes. Lesson 1, listening is not a passive skill, it's an active practice. So many learners think that if they just listen enough, their brain will somehow absorb English. I used to believe that too. But real listening improvement, the kind that helps you understand fast conversations, comes from intentional practice. Break it down. Speak along. Write what you hear. Reflect. Your ears are not broken. They just need training, just like your muscles. Lesson 2, repetition builds recognition. Recognition builds confidence. There's a reason athletes watch the same play over and over again. Musicians repeat the same phrase hundreds of times. It's not because they're slow learners. It's because deep practice creates automaticity. If you want to understand fast English, you can't just expose yourself to it, you have to own it. Choose one short video. One short podcast. Stay with it. Own the sound. Own the message. That's how you build listening power that lasts. Lesson 3, small habits beat big promises. For years, I said things like, next month I'll start doing 1 hour of English every day. But life gets in the way. Motivation fades. What worked? Just 15 focused minutes a day. That was it. No magic. No big promises. But I did it consistently, and it changed everything. So here's your challenge. Pick your first 15-minute routine today. You don't need a big plan. Just start. Here's a suggestion. 1. Find a 1-minute video with subtitles, TED-Ed, a favorite movie clip, or even a YouTube short. 2. Listen without subtitles once. 3. Shadow it line by line, focus on matching pauses and tone. 4. Write down one thing you noticed in a notebook. 5. Repeat it the next day. That's it. Just do that for 5 days in a row. And if you miss a day, no guilt. Just come back the next. Progress isn't about perfection, it's about returning. Before I close, let me tell you one more thing I wish someone had told me earlier. Your frustration with fast English doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're growing. Because struggle only happens when you're pushing your limits. And that's where the magic lives. So if you're struggling right now, don't walk away from it. Lean into it. Speak through it. And most of all, listen through it. And one last question before we go. What's the real reason you want to understand fast English? Is it to feel confident in a meeting? To travel and connect with people around the world? To stop feeling embarrassed when someone speaks too fast? Tell me in the comments. I want to know the real why behind your journey. Because the more clearly you can see your why, the more powerful your progress will become. Thank you for spending this time with me. If this story helped you, even a little, consider rewatching it again tomorrow. Let the rhythm, the message, and the hope sink deeper. And if you want to keep improving your English with real, emotional stories like this, hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell. I have a new video coming soon that shows exactly how I used English podcasts to double my vocabulary in just 15 minutes a day. Until then, stay curious, stay kind, and most of all, keep listening. You've got this.